make me smile.
I've been working on building a Maudesley table engine for months. I will do a separate video on the actual construction of the model when and if I finally get it completed. I have done a first and very temporary trial fit of some of the major parts of this Maudesley engine. I've made the connecting rods and fabricated half of the little end. There's a strap to go over the top eventually, but just to see what's going on and whether things work, and the answer is no. The purpose of this short video is to own up to the stupid mistake I've made. This engine is different to other steam engines I've made in that the two crankshaft webs are parallel to each other, not set at an angle such as 90 degrees, which is more usual depending on the engine that you're actually making. I've made a catastrophic measurement error in the lengths of the webs and spent unbelievably something like 2 weeks trying to figure out why the piston travel was wrong. And I know the answer should be obvious, but I'm afraid my brain stopped working. By the drawing, the distance between the pivot of the crankshaft and the little end bearings is supposed to be 24 millimeters. I now realise that my distance that I've actually formed is actually more like 1 3/8 of an inch, which is 35 millimeters. And this results in a total piston travel length of twice 1 3/8, which is 2 3/4 of an inch, not the 48 millimeters it is supposed to be. No surprise therefore that I couldn't prevent the piston fouling the cylinder covers at each end, in spite of stupidly trying for days to find a suitable setting. Looking at my error, I think I must have displaced my measuring device by about 10 millimeters, as the error is in the length of the length of the webs is actually approximately 11 millimeters. If there is an upside to this, apart from measuring 12 times and checking what you've actually done, it is that I think the error is so large I can correct it without totally remaking the entire crankshaft. I'm not sure if this comes out, but these lines here are just about where the little end of the connecting rod should be. My error, which is the distance from here to here, which is where the little ends currently are assembled, the error is so large that in fact, if I can work out a methodology, I think I can redo the little ends in this position and then simply saw off the ends of the crank webs and be left with a crankshaft of the appropriate length. The only question is, how do I do that and keep everything in line? Shouldn't be too difficult, but that really means nothing in my workshop. We'll see what happens. The sort of plan, not much of a plan really. Somehow, and don't ask, I have a a drill which is the same diameter as the little ends, which is extra long. Never used it in my entire life, don't know where I got it from, but suddenly it has a use. And it isn't quite long enough to pass through these two webs, but if I can somehow machine this shank down probably another 1/4 of an inch so that drill can comfortably pass right through the two webs, my plan is me wait to be impressed really. But anyway, carefully centre pop where I think the little ends should be, and frankly drill right through the lot, whilst obviously keeping all this lot in alignment. Will it work? As usual, I've got absolutely no idea. You have to be impressed by carbide tooling. I have managed to turn down an extra bit of shank length so that this drill will be able to pass comfortably right through these crank webs that I've got to correct. You've got to be impressed really. Not by me, but by carbide tooling. Yeah, it's good. Although typically drill shanks are made of a softer metal than the actual drill length itself, that's quite true. But I think I would have struggled a bit with high speed steel. Well, I wait to be impressed, but hopefully the dot mark for the little end is now give or take where it is supposed to be, i.e. at the right distance from the main crank bearing, in order to put the little ends where they're supposed to be. What remains now is to somehow pass a drill through. So what I'm doing, I've got a little bit of brass between these two webs to stop them deflecting too much as I start the drilling. Obviously the outer end hopefully is supported by the previous little end that's in the wrong place. And I'm using the old nut and bolt trick where you find a bolt of more or less the correct length and just screw the nut up to gently pinch the ends of the crank between the two webs to stop them deflecting one to the other as you start to drill through. That's the plan anyway. So that hopefully everything sort of keeps at right angles and hopefully within tolerance, stays where it's supposed to be as eventually we start to pass the drill through. And in theory it should all be parallel with this bit. You begin to wonder whether it wouldn't be easier just to make a new one, but you know, I don't know really. It's kind of more satisfying to sort out what I've already done wrong. What can I say? I don't know. It is often said that the finest pair of measuring instruments that you've got are your eyes, so I'm kind of hoping with this square and device the main crankshaft is now vertical to the axis of my old milling machine. We'll see. And has it worked? Well, the hole at this end relatively does look to be in the same sort of position in the crank web, because this was the bottom end of the drill. Does look to be in the same sort of position as the hole I started with at this end. So we'll see. I'm sort of reluctant to admit this, but there's more satisfaction in sorting out your mistakes than there is in making the rotten thing in the first place. The little ends have yet to be pinned and loctited into their respective webs, and then obviously this centre section needs to be removed, and then in the final just saw the defective ends off. But at this stage I think it's beginning to look alright, so it could be usable. Dear me, only taken 2 hours. I have repaired the crankshaft. The throw is now correct and the shaft is okay. I even think it might rotate when I put it in the engine frame. We'll have a look. It goes round. I'm going to count that a success. Bloody hell. It's only taken 2 or 3 weeks, can't remember. Dear oh dear. Having repaired the crankshaft, or sort of slightly remade it, all I've got to do now is to start to reassemble the engine to the point that it was before I discovered my ridiculous error. Ho hum.